people, if you're coming here as a tourist, you're going to be able to spend a really good time in New Orleans just by visiting the French Quarter and visiting like the streetcar on St. Charles Avenue. All of that's fine, and it's still, you get that tourist experience. But the moment you step outside of that tourist experience, you're getting the real New Orleans, and that's where we need help.
There was a huge sigh of relief that we all felt right after the storm when we realized the storm had missed New Orleans. And then within 24 hours, we say the levees, but their walls around these canals began to give way, and the city began to flood. And then we didn't know from that point on for several weeks if our house was one of the houses.
And what happened during Katrina is water came up the industrial canal, overtopped it, pushed the levee, and devastated the lower Ninth Ward. Basically, you had a wall of 10 feet of water coming at you within 2 minutes. And there's neighborhoods you can go through now that are desolate without people. And before, they were just regular neighborhoods.
And everywhere you drove, there was the muddy line, the white, dead trees, down power lines, and eerie, eerie silence. At night, it was dark, there was no power, and it was horrifying. The only other people in the city were typically people from government agencies dressed in these big white chemical suits with respirators on, and we thought for sure we were all going to die as a result of the toxic exposure. You know, we just lost everything. And frankly, everything we owned collectively as a ministry and individually as families was gone. What we did then was we went into houses and we ripped out all the moldy sheetrock and all the furniture and put them out on the front lawn. And colleges like Geneva College came and worked with us. Grove City and Wheaton College, and then church groups from all over the country came. And we would gut these houses, put all the stuff out front, and then treat the house for mold.
Well, I think a big part of why New Orleans was able to come back so quickly was because of individuals coming together. And that's not necessarily just individuals in New Orleans. We would not have gotten through the house gutting process, which is just removing all of the nasty furniture and soggy, wet, moldy crap from inside a house that's been flooded. None of that would have gotten done without volunteers. And that was 2 years of volunteers coming down on trips on their own just to work and tear out the nastiness from the houses. There's no way that would have been done at all with government help. It was just volunteers.
But these groups, these church groups came, and they began putting this neighborhood back together and putting other neighborhoods back together as well. And that's really the unsung story of New Orleans, is the college groups and the Christian churches that helped to put New Orleans back together, rebuild homes and lives. That's happening all over the city as we speak to this day. Ultimately, we went from gutting to rebuilding homes, and then eventually, as the kids came back, we went back to some of the stuff we did, plus the gutting and rebuilding.
I've heard population estimates anywhere between 60 to 80% of where we were at before the storm, and that means we're 2/3 of the city that we used to be, 2/3 or 3/4. And that's hard when you're going through these neighborhoods and you see house after house that are just vacant and boarded up and no one's been there in 3 years. That's because we lost so much of the population. And the population is starting to congregate a little bit more in the higher areas and the more densely populated, like closer to the levees and a little bit safer neighborhoods. But that's not every neighborhood, because there's always people who still believe that their neighborhood is their place and they're never going to leave it. So it just means that you have to worry that your neighborhood's going to disappear if you're living there. And I think that's hard on people, especially if they have no neighbors around.
People around the country are thinking, I believe, that 3.5 years later New Orleans should be done. What they fail to realize is that 250,000 homes were wiped out. 250,000 homes. And so you'll drive through New Orleans and you'll see house, house, no house. These big gaps in all the housing all over the city. Will these homes ever get done? Will these people ever come back? We would love to see that come back. We would love to see the people return. We want to see New Orleans emerge a better and more beautiful city than it was before.
And we're going to need help for years and years and years. There's so much work to do right now that's just barely touching the rebuilding effort. And we need volunteers to help with that. We've gotten this far because of volunteers, and we won't get any further if they quit coming. I believe New Orleans is going to be recovering for the next 3 or 4 generations.
New Orleans is in a 10-year rebuilding process. We're about 3.5, 4 years into it. 4 years this August, as we make this film. There's a lot of rebuilding yet to be done, and it will take time. I don't want the nation to forget that we're here. I need the nation to remember that we still need you to come down. I need these mission teams to come down. I need the church groups, and I need the college groups, and we need the service organizations and the corporations. We need people to still come down. There's a lot of work to be done. Furthermore, the nation did a great job of financially helping us out, not just Trinity Christian Community, but others, after the storm. We can't forget New Orleans. This is a desperate place. It's still a very poor place, and we need financial help from the rest of the nation. And so if you know of a charity in New Orleans, please support them, because we're really struggling, and we're struggling at a time when we're just starting to gain a foothold and gain momentum. And the other thing is, I would love it if the nation could remember New Orleans in whatever kind of praying they do. So we've got a long way to go. We need a lot of help. And I'm asking the people who will pray for us, especially the people in positions of leadership that God will take care of us.